Hey everyone, I'm Robert and I'm joined by Danny today from our talent delivery team. How's it going, Danny?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
Not bad. It's just typical that the weather has probably been, the last 2 weeks, the weather's been as good as it's been for probably the last 6 months, and it's looking good for the next couple of weeks, but we're stuck indoors, but it's the right thing to do, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I still managing to go out for a few runs. It's been quite nice weather for that.
Good, good. So, as you know, I've wanted to do a video with you for a while now, so no time like the present where we're stuck at home. I wanted to quickly chat through an approach we have, which we call the 6F's. Now, I know this is something that you work on daily with both candidates and hiring managers. And on our website, we talk about it as being how we kind of find the right fit for candidates, for every candidate we work with. So, just very quickly, I just thought for the next couple of minutes, it'd be great to kind of get your experience on it and really just kind of talk through what the 6F's are, why do we have them, and I guess this benefit both the candidate and the hiring manager. So, over
Yeah,
to you, Danny.
perfect. Yeah, so 6S is something we've probably employed now for about a year and a half, I think, in terms of our understanding of what the, I guess, the kind of selling points are for a candidate, but also helps us to kind of make sure we get someone who kind of fits the company as well. So I think probably firstly maybe best kind of start off just actually explaining what the six F's are. Sorry. So they stand for fit. So in terms of is this role the right fit for the candidates? Freedom in terms of does this role have quite a high level of autonomy? So if it gives the candidate freedom to maybe kind of manage themselves, they're managing a region, that can be something that can be quite attractive to candidates as well. Fun in terms of is it actually a fun role? Is it something they're going to enjoy? So, for example, you might get people who think a role's fun because they might be selling a certain type of product that they find interesting. So things such as that. Family. So in terms of is the role a good fit for their family? So I think again that would come into play if you've got someone who might have to travel, every day of the week, every Monday to Friday, having to travel. If they're having to do that, they're not going to get to see their family. Therefore, it might not be a good fit for them if that's something, obviously, if they are married with kids and things like that. Fortune, pretty simple one. So is it attractive to the candidate based on the kind of money they're going to be getting, the kind of salary package? And then future, and this one, I'd actually say future can probably be the most important. I think every single person, if they're looking to make a move to a new company, they also want to know, right, what's my next step? Not many people want to just kind of take a new role and just plateau there. They always want to see how can I improve, how can I go into the kind of next steps from there. And then the way I find the kind of success are probably actually one, if not one of, probably the most important part of me kind of selling. So I'm not a salesperson by any means, but the more and more you do a recruitment job, you realise you actually kind of are selling. So you're not only selling a candidate to a hiring manager, you're selling a company to the candidate, and that's just as important to get that candidate buy-in. If you don't sell a company properly, if you don't sell a role properly to a candidate, you're not going to have that candidate to submit to the hiring manager to share with them. So when we do an initial kind of scoping call or a call with the hiring manager to understand what the role is, we ask them what's your candidate value proposition, and that's how we build our 6F approach. So not every role is going to fit every 6F, and I don't think I've ever really had a role that every F is kind of met, if that makes sense. You might have a role that's got really good future progression. It might be a good amount of fun. It might be good salary package or good fortune, but you might find that it's a role, as I said, where they have to travel 5 days a week, so it's not got the family part of it. On average, I'm really usually looking for maybe 3 or 4 of those 6Fs to kind of sell a role to a candidate. So on that scoping call, I will speak to the hiring manager, understand what the candidate value proposition is, as I said, and then build that into how I sell the role to a candidate. So after that, once I start speaking to candidates, after I've sourced them, doing the initial interviews, obviously a big part of the call obviously is to understand why they're a good fit for the role. So asking them questions about their experience, but I'd almost say at least 50% of the call is me selling the role to the candidate. So if that's an hour-long interview I'm doing with them, potentially 20 to 30 minutes of that is me telling them information about the company, about the role, but then also not saying to them, these are 3 of the 6Fs, I think, but putting it in obviously a kind of understandable way. So I'm saying, I think the real attraction for this role would be that like I can see from your career that you've maybe stayed in one role for 3 years with a company, then got a promotion. I think this role would definitely be something that could be could lead to good future opportunities for you. Obviously asking them what the salary package is, so trying to align the fact that it could be better for them from a fortune point of view as well, and saying, look, this role gives you the autonomy to run this region, so it's a good amount of freedom as well. So not specifically saying these are the 6F's that I think align to you, but kind of putting it away in an understandable way. I think also what we do is we do candidate information packs that we'll share with candidates beforehand as well. And in that, we will say this is our 6F approach. We usually have a bit in there about that. And the number of times I've had candidates come back to me and say, I really like the 6F approach that Solutions Driven bring. It made me think about, am I actually looking to make a move? And so a lot of time I'll ask them to look at that information back before I do the interview with them, so they have as much information as possible. And them having a look at that can a lot of times start to spark or stimulate thoughts in their mind of, actually, you know what, I maybe don't have the freedom that I want in this role, or I don't see a future, or it's just not fun for me. So maybe I am ready to make a move to a new company that meets those wants and needs I have for my career progression. But yeah, sorry, so I guess that's for me a quick overview of what the 6F's are, but how I also employ them. So as I said, for me, I think if anything is the most important part is understanding why the role would be attractive to a candidate, just as much as understanding what a good candidate would be. It's how can I then sell this role to this candidate, and that's really how we get the candidates buy-in and make them interested in the role and the company.
And how does the client themselves or the hiring manager, do they buy into it quite easily or quickly, usually at the beginning of the process when you explain that's how it's going to work?
Yeah. So on the scoping calls we have with them, the initial calls we have the managers to understand the role. We do say we do tend to kind of share so we only do a screen share, for example, and it shows a kind of presentation we've got of our understanding of the role so far. But like, this is the questions we have, but also this is how we want to understand what your value proposition is to your candidates. We explain what the 6F is, kind of the way I did at the start of this call, explaining what they mean. And showing them the importance of building a good candidate value proposition. There has been one or two occasions where some hiring managers think, oh, I'm not really sure this role actually fits all too much to that. So we almost kind of have to guide them and say, well, actually, I think this role could have good future progression for someone, or could be quite fun for them. So sometimes we're almost, one or two occasions, we're almost educating the hiring manager on the benefits of their role as well, because sometimes it's not something they really think about. A lot of time they've not really got the brain space to think about what the selling points are. They just need us to find the right candidate for them. So we'll actually almost going to educate them on what we think the selling points are, and then advising the hiring manager when it comes to interviewing this person, make sure you kind of touch upon what these kind of selling points are as well, because it's quite crucial again, just to kind of they can hear from the recruiter obviously why I think the role's a good fit for them and what the fun parts are, but it means so much more coming from a hiring manager who says, look, I think this could be a good move for you due to X, Y, and Z reasons.
And I guess if you get good buy-in at the beginning, it means when you go back to the hiring manager to speak about the candidate and you've already talked through those 6F's with them,
yeah,
it makes the process so much more smoother and better, I'd imagine.
Definitely, yeah. And I think there's been times as well where understanding a hiring manager understanding a candidate's desires has almost kind of tweaked the role a little bit. So again, maybe the role itself was initially going to be you're completely out in the field 5 days a week, but if you can then say, like, a big thing that would make this suitable for a candidate is if they could even have 1 or 2 days working from home. I think that would really kind of get their buy-in and secure this candidate, especially because hiring managers can be flexible if it's for the right candidate. So if they have a rock star candidate and they think they're really good, I want them in my team, can I afford to have them working from home 1 or 2 days a week? Yeah, I probably can. I'll maybe tweak the role a little bit just to make it that much more attractive to this person, because I want to have them joining me.
I'm assuming then because of that flexibility on the 6F's is quite important though as well, because to ultimately get to that point where it's the right candidate fit, I suppose at the end of the day, both people are a wee bit flexible, but you do get the best results in the end.
Definitely. So I think it almost kind of helps us to build new conversations with both candidates and hiring managers to kind of tweak the role slightly, as I said, or just to kind of make sure it's a right fit for everyone.
Cool. look, appreciate your time. If anybody who's watching the video want to learn more about the 6F's and what Danny does on a daily basis, just leave a comment below wherever I post this video, or you can reach out to us on our website. So appreciate your time, Danny. I'm sure we'll catch up soon at some point.
Perfect. Thanks, Robert. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.